welcome back to Unraveled Game Thoughts. This is I'm going to call it my tongue-in-cheek top 10 for 2024 because I haven't played every game in 2024 and I probably won't have a solid review of the 2024 games until closer to the end of 2025, probably even 2026 to be honest, because sometimes it takes a couple of years to get through a lot of games, and there's a lot of times hidden gems that come up here and there. But I am excited about some of the games I've played this year, so I wanted to at least talk through them and put out some of the ones out there that I have played this year for sure. And I've included some in my top 10. I don't usually do this, but I thought I'll do this year. There's a lot of hype around some games, and I thought I would include in my top 10 some of those games that I'm pretty confident I will play eventually. I just don't know when it's going to happen. And based on the hype, I'm kind of guesstimating where I think that's going to land in my top 10 for this year. But I don't know for sure. So I figure it'll be fun to kind of almost make a prediction, and then we'll see. Come sometime next year, I get around to doing a re-review of my top 10 from 2024. Then kind of see where it lands. So I will probably later do my top 10 from 2023 that I think I did last year, but I will redo it given that I have played more games and had more time to think about a lot of the games that were on that came out in 2023. So that being said, let me start with my runner-ups. Games that didn't make my top 10 for this year. And also, I should throw in there, I typically, if there's a game that's like a remake of a previous game, if it's a complete reskinning and complete redoing, I may include it. But in general, and I'm thinking really when I redo my 2023, I know some of the games I took out are games that were actually remakes, so like Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. I didn't include that in my top 10 because it's really just upgrading a game that's already pretty much fully made and out there. You could argue that there's some material in that one, but some expansion material and such. But I would it's really just a remaking of the exact same game for the most part. Great Western Trail, New Zealand. Again, this is 2023 list. When I redo that, I won't have that on there because Great Western Trail is a pretty established game. New Zealand is just a different version of that game. So, it's arguable. You could include that in a top 10. I just choose to try to weed those out a little bit if I'm aware that they're, a remake of a previous version or something. So, that being said, I'm not sure if there's any on this particular list that fall into that category or would, but as far as my runners-up, games that I was they were in consideration, or I think they would be in consideration, and could get bumped into the list if I play them, if it's a game I haven't played yet. And there are two games here that I have played, one being Wormspan and the other being Fromage. I have Wormspan. I added that to the collection largely because my family was interested. They have played it once. I'm not sure how much they're going to want to play it again, but I think my kids will be more likely to play Wormspan because it's dragons over Wingspan, which my wife and I prefer. But it's different. I didn't put it in the runner-ups because I didn't think it was not different enough from Wingspan. I do think it has enough difference to warrant being a completely separate game. But it just, for me, I'm not going to be evoked to get Wormspan to the table a ton. It's fun. I would enjoy playing it. There will be times I want to play it, but I'm not. I think right now it still remains in my top 100, but it's one I could see falling out over time potentially. Could they add expansion material that makes it even better? Maybe, but I at this point in time, I would probably not see myself adding any of that material. However, things change, and maybe something would spark me to think differently about it. I do like the game. It's not like super draw to play. Fromage I liked. I played a couple of games of Fromage, I think, on BGA. I enjoyed it. It's got that kind of like, if you've seen a video of it, it's like a rondelle. I'll try to put some pictures in here. You're moving around, and each pie slice or cheese slice is almost like a mini game that you're playing every time it comes around to you. And your cheese slice that you place as a worker is doing something on the rondelle that's moving around, and it's something different. But if you use workers in one place, then you have to wait for them to come around. I think I've only played it twice. I haven't fully wrapped my head around it, but it is a game that strikes me as, if I play it more times, I wonder if I will start to like it even more. I did not like it the first time I played. I was just still wrapping my head around what is going on here, and I think I glanced through the rules, but I wasn't teaching it. I was just kind of playing because someone introduced it to me or put it on the sent me an invite on BGA. So I need to try that a few times. I'm not sure if I'm like, oh, I want to add that to my collection yet. It is intriguing and it has my interest. So I'm kind of hoping at GreyCon 2024 somebody brings it and I can get to play a physical copy of it, because I think that would be fun. But if not, I'll play it several more times on BGA, and then I'll make a call on that. A couple of the runner-ups that I've been told about that I think very well could end up on the 2024 top 10 list eventually. Things in Rings sounds really interesting. It's a party game that I have to read the rules again, but I actually have this back ordered through one of the local vendors, and I'm always looking for fun party games that can include multiple players, and I think this one would be a fun one. Probably will be taking it with me when we go skiing with a bunch of people in January. Give us an opportunity to play something a little different. I got to learn the rules. I'll have to teach it and all that, but I think that could be one that pops into my top 10, but we'll see. I've seen some reviews on it on a couple of websites, so we'll see as time goes on. Black Forest is another one that sounds interesting. I'm not sure how much I just like the name versus the mechanics that I've heard about, and I need to look on the website and look into it in more depth, because I don't think it's released yet. I don't think it's out. I haven't seen it anywhere where I can play it on BGA or anything like that. But I'm curious. It sounds like an interesting concept and theme. Could be just one that falls off the radar and disappears, or I feel like it might sneak in there if I get the chance to play it with somebody. We shall see. Skyrise is another one. I know a couple of friends that I have own this one. I imagine I will probably be playing this one at some point before the end of the year. I've heard good things. People have said, oh, have you played Skyrise? It's really cool. I don't know much about it. I'd have to take a look at it. I'll probably pop a picture up here of the box cover, but I don't have really much knowledge about how it plays or anything. Just the pretty strong report from other gamers in my area that say it is good. So moving on, the actual top 10 list. Have I played all these? There are 2 games in this list, which are actually 9 and 10, that I have not played. Everything else I've played, I actually own. Let's see. Got Backorder. I own that one. Own it. Backorder. Kickstarter coming soon. Own it. And Kickstarter coming soon. So, most of them, even if it's a Kickstarter that's coming, I've played most of these, or I've read the rules and have a pretty significant idea of what the game is doing. Some of them I'm guessing. I'm not really sure where they'll land, and they may not even land on the list. So I'll kind of throw that out there, and we'll see what it looks like next year. Number 10 on this list, I feel moderately confident could move up this list. It is Shipwright Redux, or Shipwrights Redux from Garfield Games. I have not played it yet. I have actually played the original Shipwrights, and I'm just, kind of, it was a little empty for me, in my opinion, but the Redux, I have heard, gives it some oomph, maybe brings it up to the level or the weight of a lot of the more recent Garfield games, namely West Kingdom and Beyond series. So I am really excited to try this one out, and it's a little, I'm not quite at the point where I'm like, I'm going to buy it right away, but I do want to try it, give it a shot, and I put it on my number 10 because the original Shipwrights was good enough that I found it, okay, this is kind of fun. I could see where this could be more fun, and had I had all the expansions that I was playing with, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But it fell into that category of games that I need an expansion or several, kind of like Raiders of the North Sea. I don't have Raiders of the North Sea. I liked it with expansions, but I ended up purchasing Raiders of Scythia because it's kind of like Raiders with all the expansions. Plus it has Shem Phillips art. The Shipwright Redux, I think, has the potential to be a good, solid addition to what is a growing Garfield collection. Shipwright Redux, number 10. Number 9 is a shot in the dark for me. I don't know if it'll make the list, but I have a hunch it very much could, and we'll see. The jury is out. It is Arcs. Arcs has got a huge level of popularity right now. I don't know how much of that is because people just like Cole Worley's games, or it's a really good game. I've listened to the Game Brain podcast. I've heard them talk about it. I've heard another podcast or two talk about it as well. Seen some reviews on it. It sounds good. It looks pretty. I think it is quite possible that this stays on my top 10 list and maybe even moves up. Arcs, I'm curious about. I hope to play it at GreyCon. I'm hoping somebody gets it. There's a half a chance I've ordered it and can't remember if I've ordered it. It's on back order, or it's on hold somewhere, and I'm just waiting for my holds to fill up. So we will see what happens with that. I am very interested in playing it, and I've got hope for Cole Worley's game to be a pretty positive experience, but we will see. Number 8 is kind of another shot in the dark. This is a game I kickstarted, I want to say it was 2022 that it first was kickstarted. It might have been early 2023, but I think it was 2022. And thought it was going to come out last year, but it got pushed to this year. I'm thinking September, October it should arrive, and that's Unconscious Mind. Unconscious Mind had a decent amount of hype, probably still does have some hype, but I think that's worn off a little bit over time. I was very interested in this game because I am a marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional counselor, and so the idea of a Freudian-like counseling sort of game struck me as appealing. And I'm not like a super backer or anything, but I got some components upgraded, and I got the little foil cards, dream foil cards, because I thought those looked really cool. And it looks fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to play it. I'm not sure if it's going to be... there's a part of me that kind of thinks this might be a game that ends up falling into it's a Euro with a lot of Euro-y mechanics kind of melded together, but but the theme doesn't really come through the way I want it to. I'm afraid it's going to fall into, what was it, Hippocrates, that I got a couple of years ago, and I played a game of it, and I thought it was going to be much more engaging, and I found the gameplay to be a little empty after a play or two, and I'm afraid this one's going to fall into that realm, especially given the amount of money the Kickstarter was. I want to say it was around 80 some odd dollars, maybe 90. And I didn't get it didn't get the all in. There's a higher level of Kickstarter you could do. But we'll see. I am interested in it. I'm really hoping it's fun. I'm really hoping it's one I want to get to the table. I would love for this to be a game that ends up being in my top 100. We'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. Okay. Number 7. Is that right? 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 7 was a surprise to me. I did not expect to like this game this much. I think the first play or two I did, I was like, I'm not sure about this, but the more I played it, the more I loved it. And it just was a fun, enjoyable, it's not that hard to teach, really. It's Draft&Write records. It is a flip and write, similar to like Welcome to or something of that nature, or yeah. And so flip and write game, you're gonna flip a card in, but here's the difference between Draft&Write records. At the end of the round, everybody gets like a number of cards, each player, and you're gonna pick one, and then that's gonna trigger something you check off on your player sheet. And there are lots of different areas you could check something off, but you have to kind of follow a pattern in one area. On your tour, you have to go kind of in a straight line to some degree. There's your band that you're filling out in the middle of your sheet, and it's only a few areas you can go at the beginning of the game, but as you unlock things through bonuses, then you can fill out more band members. It's pretty important because at the end of the game, there's a little bit of a penalty for every band member that you haven't completed. So what is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 5, 6, I think, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there's like 10 band members. Technically not all band members. You got your lead singer, and then you have like some acoustic people and a soundboard guy, a couple of those, like 3 or 4 sound guys, and some stage crew, something like that. I can't remember what they're all called, but you're filling out your band, and it's like 10 members. And at the end of the game, if you don't have like say you ended at the end of the game with 7, somebody else got theirs complete, they're not going to get any negatives. But if you don't already have some negative check boxes, you got to check an X for every band member you're missing. If you happen to have already some X's checked for various reasons in the game, and then you have to check more for missing band members, it could be a lot of lost points. But it's a lot. There's a lot of bonus triggering. That's what I really loved about the game, is you're doing these things. It's really it's thematic. It's got a good theme, and the theme kind of is fun with the way the bonuses trigger. I would not call it a game where you feel like the mechanics are really synchronizing with the theme per se, but it doesn't feel unsynchronized either. It doesn't feel really lopsided, like, definitely a pasted on theme, but it fits. It works the way they've managed it. And again, going back to the drafting, sorry, you got the cards that you draw at the beginning of the game. You're gonna draft one, it's gonna trigger something on your sheet, you're passing the rest to the left or the right. So each round it kind of switches the direction in which your cards you're passing on move. And once everybody's down to like one card, then you're going to end up doing some bonus scoring, or potentially meeting some goal. There's some goal cards, and you might meet some of those, and so you can claim some of those. And then you're going to go on to the next round, draw more cards, draft some more, and triggering bonuses. And so you're really trying to string sort of some big bonuses together, and you can end up with some pretty fun turns where it's like, I trigger this, well that triggers this, and that triggers this, and that triggers this, and that triggers this. And you can end up really having some, a couple of epic turns in there. And at the end of the game, it's just like point salad, a whole bunch of different places on your sheet. I don't know if they make replacement sheets for the game. It has a stack of those sheets, and I looked everywhere. online. I couldn't find any replacement sheets or a place where you could just print them out. But I took 6 of the sheets because it's up to a 6-player game. I took 6 of them, I laminated them, and I bought some dry erase markers that, because they are colored, you're using colored lines. I got dry erase markers that are colored to use in the game. Haven't opened them yet, but I actually just recently laminated the sheets for the purposes of using those dry erase markers. So we'll see if that works, because you're drawing a few lines here and there on your player sheet. That is Draft&Write Records. Great, I would say almost a filler game. Maybe it's slightly more than a filler game, but close. It only takes about 30-40 minutes to play, and I think it's a blast. I loved it. Number 6 is a Elizabeth Hargrave game. You probably have already guessed it. No, it's not an expansion to Wingspan. It's actually Undergrove. This doesn't have terribly great reviews on BGA. I've played it on BGG, but I've played it on BGA a few times, and I largely decided to back this game because I really enjoyed the play on BGA. Now, I'm not 100% sure where I feel like this lands. There are several things that I really like about this game. One is it's mushrooms. Now, I'm not like a big mushroom fanatic. I don't go collect mushrooms. But I've seen several and helped playtest a couple of mushroom games. And I really liked Elizabeth's design, where the mushrooms are kind of out there, and they have different triggers. If you're thinking of it kind of like an engine builder, like everybody's, like the mushrooms all sit out in a centralized field that everyone is interacting with. So there's a little bit more collective interaction, and you're going to be putting down saplings, I believe, or you're going to put root. You're going to start with a sapling somewhere, and on your sapling is going to be a root that connects to a mushroom. So your sapling tends to sit at the corner of a mushroom, but as the game goes on and more mushrooms are built out into the board by players, your sapling could be sitting in the center of like up to 4 mushrooms. And if you have a root touching all 4 mushrooms, you have 4 potential mushrooms that you could trigger on your turn. And so your turns are a lot of, either placing a sapling or placing a root or triggering a mushroom to gain resources. The mushrooms, I believe, provide you things like nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus. I might be missing one that I can't remember, like another resource. And then when you grow your tree and do other actions, you use those resources to then feed your tree and then grow your tree. And you're ultimately trying to get, I think, 3 trees. Maybe ends, I forget what ends the game. It's either 3 trees or somebody gets to the top of this carbon track that is, everybody's kind of racing up this carbon track to some degree. So I think in some ways it's a race. It could be a little bit of an engine builder because you're trying to trigger together the mushrooms. Whenever you trigger something, you have these 4 mushroom tokens, and you usually have to flip one over or sometimes 2 over to trigger a thing. And so there's kind of like what I call it, like a reset turn. One of the actions you can take flips those all back over so that they're reusable, and you can trigger more mushrooms. But there's a little bit of an efficiency puzzle to it for sure, trying to, how can I get the most out of all my triggers over the course of time. All the mushrooms are very different, do different things, and you're ultimately trying to get carbon to your tree to feed it. So sometimes you're pulling it from mushrooms further away, and you use resources to do that. It's a little bit of a puzzle, and a little bit of an engine builder, and nice kind of, I don't know if area control is the right word for it, but it feels like there's a tiny bit of area control and a little bit of a race. So a lot of different things. I initially was just going to get the base game, no frills. And I played it 3, 4, 5 times. I was like, man, I really like this. I watched the teachers, a little bit of educational value to it, possibly. So I went ahead, and I think they have these like resin mushroom tiles that make up the central board, and everything's like wood tokens and really nice components. I went ahead and did that because I was like, I think this one could be a fun one. I think this one's going to be, I know I'm going to have it on my top 100 this year. I'm just not sure where it falls. And I feel like this has some good replayability, almost in the vein of Wingspan, where it's not a super heavy game, but it's a lot of fun, enjoyable, replayable type of features to the game and mechanics that work well together. I don't know if it'll end up being her like second best game or not, but it wouldn't shock me to see Wingspan's probably going to be number one for a long time, and I wouldn't be shocked to see Undergrove be more like the number 2 game that a lot of people end up liking. I don't think it'll ever be as popular as Wingspan, but I don't know that it wouldn't like, kind of fall in there and start rising over time. So we'll see. Probably depends on how much. I think she usually does a decent amount of playtesting with her games, so I think it probably will be pretty balanced, but we'll see. All right, that is Undergrove at number 6. Number 5. And then I kind of debated, some of these I debated, like, man, where do I put this? Not 100% sure, but I have been really, really wanting to play this. Now, I'm gonna caveat this. This game seems to fall flat for other people that I've played with. So I could run into an issue of having a hard time finding people to play. But on the plus side, it's a very short game. It's like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, super short. But I really liked it. And every time, and like at first I was kind of like, what am I doing here? But then I played it 3, 4, 5, 6 times on BGA, and the more I played it, the more I liked it, the more I thought the mechanics actually fit the theme pretty well. I always like that. This is called Lure. It is, I can't remember the name of the designer who did this one. Give me a second. I am going to, you can't see my screen, so I'm just going to look it up real quick. I can't remember if he's a Japanese designer. It's actually a remake of another game. Re-implementation of a dice fishing roll and catch, and this is by Satoru Nakamura. So from All Play Games, this is on back order. I don't 2 to 5 players. I don't have it in hand yet. I think it's October is when it comes. So I'm really kind of hoping to have it by GreyCon, but it may not come to the end of October, in which case I won't be able to really bust it out until further out, and just have to settle for BGA plays where I can get them. But this is, I think it's a really good design. You've got, I think it's like 6 D6 dice. You've got a D12 and a D20, and you're fishing, and you have lures. You start the game with one lure, and anytime you don't catch a fish on a round, you gain another lure. So you can get the lures give you bonuses sometimes to help you adjust the die rolls, or they can just give you an outright like die, like it's a number 6 die, or it's a number 4 die, or something like that you're adding to the dice, but they don't count as a dice. Why does that matter? Well, when you're going fishing, everybody's going to secretly pick a number of dice that they want to use. And how you determine who gets to look at the fish that have come out and see who gets to catch first is based on, did you use the fewest dice? Doesn't matter how many lures you use, but if you use the fewest dice to try to catch fish, then you get to go first. So if you catch the fish, then the next player maybe can get a different fish, but they can't catch the same fish, because you get first dibs over the fish you're trying to catch. So it's a really kind of push your luck sort of thing, where it's like, I want to try to catch as many fish as I can with the fewest dice possible. And when you use your big dice, you only get to use those like once every 2 rounds or something like that, because there's some mechanic in there. Your dice kind of shrink for a little bit, but you get most of them back most rounds. I think a round is basically when all the fish for that round are gone, something like that. It's a very short game. It's only played over a handful of rounds, or until all the fish run out. But the fish score different points, and different fish have to be caught in different ways. Some you have to catch without a lure, and you need a certain number. Some when I say a certain number, it's like this fish takes 15 total to catch with no lure, something like that. Some fish will say, like, this takes at least 8, and you have to have a 2 and a 3 to catch it. So you'd have to have rolled a 2 and a 3 on your dice, plus you must have at least 8 total. So there's a lot of different requirements for each fish, and at the end of the game, it's whoever has the most points in fish based on the point value on the fish cards. But I think it's really good. I think it's a really neat, fun, light, quick game to play, and I could see playing this multiple times in a row and having a blast doing it. Maybe something like Sea Salt and Paper, which I think is also another quick, light, easy game to play. A little bit, definitely some luck involved, but that's kind of the nature of a push your luck game like this. And I like the tension of trying to use as few dice as possible to capture as many fish as you can. Number four. This is, man, we are getting into some these 4 to 1. These are the games that I've been the most excited about this year so far. Number 4, I play tested this game, so I played a couple of games play testing it. I think I played mostly solo. I don't recall getting to play a multiplayer, although I might have, and I just forgotten. And that is Inventors of the South Tigris. This is the 3rd game in the South Tigris series. S.J. McDonald and Shem Felix. Wow, I got them both wrong. So sorry, guys. Man, like they're always like, this is what these are 2 of my favorite designers. And so I can't. S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips. You would think I would just remember that, but I'm going to claim Monday. That's what I'm going to do. Inventors of the South Tigris. Now, I will say the jury is still out on this game because the few times I played it, it's very crunchy. There's a lot of things going on, and trying to figure out like how to best plan my actions out. I felt like all the games I played, I did terribly, and these feel like the type of game where it's like if you don't play it the right way, you kind of are really nerving yourself. So think something like Tapestry, where if you don't really know how those tracks work in Tapestry, and how important it is to stretch your resources as far as you can, then it's easy to miss the benefits that you would get from doing that. And you could end up with a score of like 90 or 110 or something like that. And if you've played Tapestry enough, well, that's a terrible score. You really have to max out as much as you can, and you got to know how to balance those tracks together so that you get the most out of them and end up with a score like 300 or 400 or something like that. I feel like Inventors probably falls in that. Like there's some way to do everything together to max out the score that you're trying to get. And I, in my plays, couldn't quite figure it out because it's just like this boat thing. It gets these cards that end up being like, they go to your, or they give you some, some like ongoing bonuses, trying to, like the resources feel really tight. And I would get to the end of the game and feel like I did like hardly anything. I think I was competitive with the AI, at least in 1 or 2 of my games, but it felt very tight and I did not feel like I was doing it very well. So I need to go see if SJ and Shem actually play a game together and watch them play in full and learn from that, because it's one of the, like, if I'm going to go be teaching this game in a couple of months, then I want to be able to hopefully teach it well and maybe even infuse some strategy into the teaching so that people can do the best job on the first play. I liked it though. At first I was kind of like, I'm not sure, it feels too weighty. I wasn't sure if I was going to back it, but I played it a couple times and I was like, their games always tend to be, especially with the South Tiger series, better and more fun than I thought they would be. And I'm going to give it the benefit of it out. We're going to do this, and I think it will end up being just fine. I know they're coming out with an expansion that has asymmetric character powers. I think that will be really super beneficial. They're taking a round out of the game because those asymmetric powers are so good. I'm just very curious, and I know the dice management and mitigation and how all that works is pretty fun. There's this tower of tiles that flip, and you're kind of like building up a tower, and that gives you some bonuses and resources, and it impacts the cost of things and which workers you have to use. There's a lot of interesting, fun mechanics to work with in this game, and I think there's a lot more for me to learn about and delve into in learning this game. So that's coming out soon. Inventors of the South Tigris. I think it'll be great. We'll see how others. I haven't seen a lot of ratings on it yet, so we'll see how others take to it when it arrives. Third, number 3. This one could move up even higher. This one also is on my top 100. I was pleasantly surprised at how good this game turned out to be and how much I liked it. I thought it was going to be potentially a little over the top. I wasn't real impressed with this designer's last game before this one. I'm sure it was great. Some people loved it. I just kind of thematically didn't connect with it. But I got to play this one with 4 players, and I really, really, really want to play it again. The one catch is it's long. It's going to take 4 hours probably to play. But that is Inventions, Evolution of Ideas by Vital Lacerda. Beautiful game. Of course, the O'Toole did the art. Absolutely fantastic for the complexity of the game. O'Toole is a master of making these things so it's a lot easier to follow than it could be. The action selection mechanism I thought was going to be overly complex, kind of hard to wrap my head around, and the idea of chaining, how do I chain things together, I thought it was going to be a harder concept to grasp. But after having played it and read through the rules several times, it wasn't too hard to wrap my head around. This is probably weighted around the level of On Mars, and honestly, even with On Mars, I didn't feel like it was quite as heavy as people make it out to be, in my opinion. And I don't know if that's just my own, it's just, I feel like there are other games that are actually heavier and harder to wrap my head around because theme and mechanics don't weave together quite as well. Weather Machine might be actually a good example of that. But Inventions, Evolution of Ideas was pretty. I liked the way everything flowed together and the different things you can trigger, the little board of it's almost like a Tetris puzzle you're trying to put together, and you're trying to get your in-game points to line up with some bonuses that you're trying to score each round or gain within the game. There's a lot to like about this, and I do think it will take 2 or 3 plays before it really kind of you kind of see everything coming together. On Mars was very similar. It took me a couple of plays, and that's oh, I see how all this works together a little bit better, and then it doesn't feel so heavy anymore. But I think it was a great game. I know that there are those that feel like it's really weighty and hard and not worth the effort. I would disagree. I think it's definitely really good. I find it thematic enough. Some review I read indicated it just pasted on theme. That probably is the case to some degree. I mean, most games are kind of a pasted on theme, but I like the way this theme works with the mechanics. I think it does make some sense. A little bit of a Civ feel to it to some degree, although it's not really a Civ game. It's probably more asymmetric puzzle than anything else, but it is enjoyable and fun, and I think there is a little bit of material that we might not have played with the last game I played that we left out, and we could probably include that the next time we play. But yeah, Inventions, Evolution of Ideas, really love it. I thought it was curious that I had this, and then number 4 was the Inventors of the South Tigris. So I'm sort of curious over time how these games go. If they start separating themselves, or if they just kind of stay together over time, even on my bigger top 100 list. So number two was an even bigger surprise. I was excited about it. I like the theme. Ezra Nehemiah, again by Garfield Games. So I guess we got 3 Garfield games on here. I didn't even realize I had 3 on here. That's crazy. But Ezra Nehemiah, also by Garfield Games. I was intrigued by the theme. They tend to be pretty historical. They said on their site this wasn't like a religious game, which I appreciate that they were just trying to dig into the history and the theme and incorporate that into a board game. And reading and looking at the rules, I don't think did I get to play this? I did. I actually got to play one game of this during playtesting before it came out, and that's what sold me on, okay, I'm going to go out and back this. And it reminds me of, when I think of it, I kind of think of Lisboa. I've never played Lisboa, but I know Lisboa, you're like clearing rubble in a Vitalis Artist game, and you're trying to rebuild the town of Lisboa. That's kind of what came to mind when I'm playing the game. And if you play Paladins, I feel like that's probably the most influence, in my opinion, having played most of their games. Some people say it's like a medley of all their mechanics. I'm not sure about that. To me, Paladins feels the most resonating, because in Paladins, you know that there are three sort of, you have the faith, the influence, and the power. And in Ezra Nehemiah, you have three different kinds of resources that you are basically trying to string actions together. And the more of that resource you have, the more powerful of that type of action you can take. So gray is going to be building or clearing rubble. Blue is going to be almost an area control sort of mini game where you're grabbing end-game points or in-game bonus. Let me see if I said that right. End-game points, which is the very top row, or in-game bonuses, which are any of the other three rows. And then there's like a little like rondelle track that you can use blue that you have either left over from doing a main, or you can just go around that and get resources. And then there's red, which is the Levitical making sacrifices on the altar or to the temple. And it's a little bit of an area control piece there. And there's like a turn order, basically vying for turn order, get some more resources via bonuses on the flame track, or I think it's called the altar track. So you've got these three things that in the way, if you're familiar with what's it called, Viscounts of the West Kingdom, then you kind of have the idea of like there's a board, and you have up to 3 cards, and then you have a number of in Viscounts it was a symbol, but in here it's like a flag, and so you have a number of flags showing, and that's the power of your given action. So if I have 3 red flags showing, I can take a red action at power 3, and then there might be other things in the game that can influence and help me accentuate that power and manipulate it. And that's what kind of makes the game, I think, pretty fun, is really trying to figure out how do I manipulate these different resources to get the most out of the actions in a round. There's only, I think, 3 rounds in the game, and there's a couple of competing areas on the board. You're racing or trying to work against the clock with other players, and you get basically six cards per round. And part of that puzzle is my first 3 I lay out are probably I can build up toward a pretty powerful action of some sort. And then once I've done that, then I've got to put cards on top of those 3. And I'm going to end up covering up. So there's a little bit of a, how do I take my actions in an efficient order? And then each of those cards also gives me some kind of a bonus action. So it's just like everything, there's a lot of meaty, crunchy choices in this game. Lots of fun to play. Definitely made it's in my top 100 for sure. I don't know if it's in my top 10, but man, it is a fun game to play. I look forward to getting this out as much as I can and teaching people how to play it. But it is a little heavy, so this is not going to be a game probably for your lighter or gateway gamer. This one is for folks who have developed a little bit more with some other games before they're ready for something like this. The mechanics are not hard. I would say it's easier to learn than, say, a Vitalis Artist game. I would say weight-wise probably falls into the realm of maybe Viscounts. I'd say Viscounts is probably a reasonable place to go. Scholars, possibly. It's about the same weight as those. So maybe even less so than Scholars, but slightly probably on par with Viscounts, because Viscounts has a few mechanics that are a little different as compared to other games. So anyway, that is my number 2. Number 1. Not sure if it's going to stay here, but I have been extremely pleasantly surprised by this game. And I kind of played it. I forget if somebody invited it to me on BGA or I played it on a whim or how that worked. But it is River of Gold. Played it on BGA. I think I've got a copy on back order now. Really looking forward to introducing people to this game. And I don't think people know about it in general. River of Gold is really fun to play. I am looking forward to getting a physical copy that I can play with. But it's fun on BGA, and once I kind of grasped the rules and how things work together, there's still some depth to explore and like how do these mechanics work together the best. But you can manipulate enough via your strategy and the things you choose to prioritize with regard to working toward those in-game points. And it's like you have 2 boats that can sail down this river. They kind of start in different places of the river, and once they get to the end, they go to the top. There's a bonus for going back up to the top of the river, and you're trying to deliver orders to these, what do you call them, I forget, patrons that are looking for certain grouping of materials. And you collect those materials by sailing down the river. You build buildings on the river that you own, and they can give you a bonus. And if other people use that building, it gets you another bonus, kind of a background bonus. So there's a little bit of a race to build buildings on the river and try to collect those bonuses. And somewhere in the game there's a pivot, because you're trying to deliver to as many of these patrons as you can, but it's like a limited number of turns. So there's a piece of this that feels, I'm gonna say Teotihuacani, if I can make up a word, where it's tight. I'm not sure 100% how many turns I'm gonna get, but I know it's gonna be tight, and I gotta find that magic time to really pivot into my points and move away from just gathering resources, and do that in a balanced and a focused fashion. So this has that feel to it. Teotihuacan is one of my favorite games. I really, really love the way those things leverage against each other. And I think River of Gold has that magic in it, where very tight, very compact, crunchy decision, and room for a lot of really good competition in a board game environment. I'll make it. So that is my top 10 for 2024. And we will see how that develops over time. If you've played these games, have an opinion on these games, feel free to post something in the comments. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on the different games here. Until next time, thanks for joining Unraveled Game Thoughts.